What's up guys, my name is Arina and welcome back to my channel where I review everything tech. So it's been about 2 months since I got my Google Pixel 4 XL and I've got a lot to say about this phone. I've heard many contradictory opinions about this phone. Some people were disappointed, some people loved it. Well, I guess it's a typical situation when a new flagship comes out. Speaking of looks and design, I got my phone in the white color. I personally love the design of the new Google Pixel 4. It's quite minimalistic. It has a matte glass back, aluminum frame, and a nice touch, this vibrant power button on the side. And despite being the XL model, this phone is pretty lightweight. I especially feel this when I take my Pixel 4 XL after holding my iPhone 11 Pro Max for a while. And right away it feels like such a relief for my hand. And let's talk about one of the most important aspects in any smartphone, the display. The Pixel 4 XL has a 6.3-inch OLED display. The thing about this display I've been most excited about is that it's 90Hz capable. By default, it automatically switches between 60 and 90 Hz depending on the apps and the content you're watching. However, if you want, you could force 90 Hz in the developer settings. This display is very responsive and extremely smooth, all the swipes feel instant. It also looks very sharp and so far I've had nothing but an amazing experience with this display. And of course, when I turned on my Pixel 4 XL for the first time, I noticed that this phone has pretty thick bottom and top bezels. However, when I've started using this phone on a daily basis, I've actually stopped noticing them. With the new Ambient EQ feature, the display on the Pixel 4 XL adjusts its white balance to the light around you, providing you the most accurate viewing experience. This feature reminds me of Apple's True Tone on an iPhone. However, while the True Tone makes colors look much warmer on the display of the iPhone 11 Pro Max, the Ambient EQ makes this difference more subtle on the Pixel 4 XL. And when it comes to the brightness of the display on the Pixel 4 XL, I cannot call it the brightest display I've ever seen. It's obviously dimmer than, say, the iPhone 11 Pro Max. However, I've never experienced any viewing problems indoors. But I have to admit that when I use my Pixel 4 XL outdoors, it honestly could be better. And I would say this is the only shortcoming of this display for me. However, when it comes to using this phone on a daily basis, it honestly doesn't really bother me since most of the time I use my phone indoors anyway. Next, let's talk about the battery. We have 3700 mAh on the Pixel 4 XL. And first, let's do a quick test and see how long it takes when it comes to charging the Pixel 4 XL. My phone was absolutely dead, 0%. And I'm using the original cable and 18-watt power adapter that came in the box. By the way, the Pixel 4 XL also supports wireless charging. And in 10 minutes we get 14%. In about 30 minutes we get 46%. 1 hour later, as you can see, we have 78%. We get 93% in 1 hour and 30 minutes. And finally it takes, well, almost 2 hours to fully charge the Google Pixel 4 XL. And speaking of battery life, this phone easily lasts me through the day. I usually have about 30% left by the end of the day. Of course, the battery life will depend on your usage and other things like average display brightness, installed apps, settings, and so much more. Usually, I don't play games on my smartphones. I just prefer doing it on devices with bigger displays. However, I use the camera app a lot, which is pretty demanding, especially when it comes to video. YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, I guess I'm pretty much like any other average user. Now let's talk about biometrics and security features. Unlike its predecessors, the Pixel 4 XL doesn't have a fingerprint sensor, which could be a bummer if you're a fan of the fingerprint unlock. I think I've personally stopped caring about fingerprint sensors for quite some time, so having just the Face ID is perfectly fine for me, especially if it's fast and intuitive. And when it comes to the Pixel 4 XL, the Face Unlock works really fast, thanks to the Motion Sense, the new feature on the Pixel 4 XL. When you reach for your phone, the reader can sense your hand, and the phone starts preparing for the identification process. So when you take your phone, it unlocks in an instant. And that's why I actually prefer to keep the skip lock screen option disabled. Otherwise, my Pixel 4 XL just keeps unlocking when I just hold it in my hands. The Face Unlock feature on the Pixel 4 XL is implemented with infrared projector in the camera to create and read an accurate depth map of your face, which is considered to be more secure since it can be tricked with a photo or a video. However, the thing I personally don't get is how is that possible that it works with closed eyes? For me, it ruins the whole idea of safety, and in my opinion, this Face Unlock doesn't feel complete. However, Google says that it has been working on an option for users to require their eyes to be open to unlock the phone, which will be delivered in a software update in the coming months. So, I'll be waiting for this. Next, let's talk about the speakers of this phone. We have stereo speakers on the Pixel 4 XL. These speakers are pretty loud, and when it comes to the sound quality, no complaints here. The Google Pixel 4 XL is powered by Snapdragon 855, has 6GB of RAM, and starts from 64GB of unexpandable storage. This phone feels super fast, no complaints here, and when it comes to glitches, I've had a few with my camera app during my first 2 weeks using this phone. Sometimes the camera app would just freeze. From my experience, it often happens with new phones when they just come out, and then usually the problem just goes away. So I haven't experienced any problems with my Pixel 4 XL for a while now, and it works just fine. And moving on to the camera of the Pixel 4 XL, we got a dual camera here, a 12.2 megapixel main camera with an aperture of 1.7 and a 16 megapixel telephoto camera with an aperture of 2.4. When it comes to new features of the Google Pixel 4 XL's camera, now you get dual exposure controls, and you can manually change the exposure of different parts of the photos separately. This new feature lets you be even more creative, and you can make any photo look the way you want. I already have very comprehensive camera comparison videos on my channel where I talk about this camera in more detail and show you a lot of photo and video examples, so don't forget to check them out if you haven't already. But in this video, I want to show you some photos I got when I tested the Astrophotography mode. So to get your Pixel 4 XL into the Astrophotography mode, you should find a very dark place, far away from lights, which was actually not that easy for me in New York City. Then switch to the night side mode, point your phone toward the sky, and your Pixel 4 XL will automatically switch to the Astrophotography mode. For best results, use the tripod, and these are the photos I got. Yeah, I know, they could be better, but the light pollution is crazy in New York City, so I couldn't manage to get those mind-blowing shots that some people get with the Pixel 4. But still, I have to admit, these are very sharp, good-looking night shots. I think by this point of the video I've already talked about the most important things for me in any smartphone, but when it comes to the Pixel 4 XL, you also get a bunch of new interesting features. One of them is the quick gestures powered by motion sense, so you could do some things without touching your phone, like skipping songs, snoozing the alarm, and you could also silence phone calls. It's actually pretty convenient, especially when you're cooking and your hands are dirty or wet, but sometimes when your phone is on a desk, waving over your phone is just easier than targeting at a specific small button on the display. And when it comes to how good it works, I would say in the beginning it worked like 9 times out of 10, but with some practice you become really good at it. I think snoozing the alarm in the morning was the most difficult task for me, because when I'm sleepy I have no idea what I'm doing, so I was just waving all over the nightstand, just hoping for this thing to shut up. But with some practice you'll get the hang of it, so for those skeptics like me, this thing is pretty intuitive, it really works. One of my favorite new features on the Pixel 4 XL is the new recorder, that aside from standard recording also transcribes your speech. So aside from an audio, you also get a transcript, which could be super convenient in many situations. I'm not a student, but when I have some ideas in my head, I always prefer recording my voice to typing notes, since it's much easier and faster. And sometimes it's very convenient to also have a text of what you've said, so you could copy and paste it afterwards. And above it all, it works offline without an internet connection. So guys, if you ask me, I really enjoy using my Pixel 4 XL. It definitely has many strong points, as well as some shortcomings. Yes, I wish it had an ultra-wide camera, brighter display, and expandable storage, but I also love the Google's innovative approach and new features in this phone that other flagship phones don't have. So yeah, these are my thoughts on the Google Pixel 4 XL. Guys, really curious to know what you think about this phone, so please let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video and see you in the next one.